I am very hopeful. All you have to do is to look to nature to find the answer to how this is going to work, how it should work. Where can I make this a better world, and how do I do that? Well, I do that by looking to nature, because nature has already figured it out.
A Parent Wins, an adventure of a lifetime. A global expedition dedicated to collecting stories of environmental and cultural preservation while conducting marine research aboard sailing vessel Resilience.
We're headed to Kathy's house, who's also known as the Swamp Goddess. We're just outside of Savannah, Georgia, and Kathy's a naturalist, I think an author, started a lot of organizations, and it's just sort of, from what I understand, iconic in the sort of, in this part of the world. So we're gonna have a little bit of brunch, get to know her, maybe take a walk, and learn a little bit about this part of the lowcountry around Savannah, Georgia.
Hey, looking forward to seeing you. We're outside.
With Kathy, I just feel like she was just one of those people that we were meant to talk to. Just like so many signs pointing to like, this is right.
I really didn't know what to expect. At that point, all I knew was that we were having brunch with the Swamp Goddess in her treehouse, which sounded a little crazy, but still fun. She really is the definition of Southern hospitality. She made us this whole big breakfast spread, and we all sat down and instantly felt like old friends, just chatting away about this amazing world we live in.
Now, did you give yourself the title Swamp Goddess?
No, I did not. Nope, that came from there were two elderly doctors that kept coming on my trips. For 10 years, they kept coming on my trips, and I never heard them refer to me as Swamp Goddess. And then one day I was, I guess at the end of the trip, I would go around and give everybody their 2 cups of wine. You know, I mean, that was the, you know, we didn't want anybody to get too drunk,
right,
but we wanted to be happy at the end of the day. And so I went over there and I heard them talking, and they were talking about Swamp Goddess. And they were going on and on and on, and I was like, you know, I've heard every story about every character in the swamp, and I do not know who Swamp Goddess is. And so I said, who are y'all talking about? And one of them turned just plum. Yeah, he was just a very tan, and he just turned purple. And the other one was just real wan, and he turned just scarlet red. And I was like, are you talking about me? Oh, well, you know, they were just so embarrassed. And at first I was like, oh man. And then I was like, oh, that is such a cool name.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
It's delicious.
You're gonna have to come visit us on Resilience, I feel like.
Yeah.
So, every so often I hear an accent. You're from here, from Savannah? Where are you from?
I was born in Portsmouth, Virginia, but we lived in Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay.
So it's
That's the accent.
coastal South Carolina.
I was like, Savannah's different than Charleston, so maybe it's yeah.
Well, and there is a little bit of that in there too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, yeah, my father had a Hungarian accent, so you know, I grew up thinking, you know, every kid, you know, you base everybody else's experience on your own, right? And so I thought every kid had a very Southern mother and a, you know, foreign sounding dad. That's what I thought, you know. So what are you what is your perspective? What are you trying to get across?
Well, it's funny. The name of our whole thing is Apparent Wins because it's a metaphor for perspective. So, the goal is to share stories all around the world, the bigger picture all around the world of people preserving environment and culture. But also sharing people's perspectives with other people that, hey, we're on the same planet. We all have our own perspectives.
Right.
We have our own apparent wind. I guess what I'm trying to eventually get to is to be able to share the beauty of this place, but then also if you could share sort of changes you may have seen and things that you've become more aware of and maybe are trying to drive home for folks to keep what you probably, it sounds like you've fallen in love with.
Yeah, so I fell in love with the Georgia coast right off the bat. And what I have come to appreciate is that people that came before me loved the Georgia coast, if not more, just as much as me. And because of that, we have this incredible wild coast. So that to me is just so special. And everybody that comes here gets it, I think, or else they wouldn't want to be here, You can go to Florida and you can, eat your heart out. I mean, not eat your heart out, but eat to your heart's content,
right.
With a smorgasbord of restaurants and hotels and all of that lining up right on the beach. You can go to South Carolina and do the same thing. But Georgia is that buffer, between that respite, that natural respite. And that's what I really appreciate and just really adore being here.
Driving from here to here from Beaufort, looking at all the development and thinking about the way we're doing things, golf courses, septic tanks, all these other issues that we're sort of dealing with right now. I'm kind of curious, is there a way to sort of backpedal it all?
Of course there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, nature is so resilient to me. Nature has a great healing power, but there is a tipping point. There is that point of no return where you can't backpedal anymore. I don't think we're there yet. I think that we have time. In coastal Georgia, our oyster industry went tanked in the 80s, and that was because of the silviculture. We have a tremendous amount of pine forest here, and so one of the things that we're noted for is pulp and paper production from the pine forest, right? And so the practice of clear cutting, and clear cutting is upstream, upstream of here, but the runoff is tremendous. And so it gets into our rivers, it gets into our waterways and comes out into the estuary. So you get nutrients that are way more than what should be in the natural environment that affect the seafood. So yeah, the oyster culture tanked, and now we're starting to see the oyster culture come back. And that's because people identify the problem, paying attention to that, the mitigation of it. How do we stop that? Well, we don't clear cut, or if we clear cut, we make sure that we're, we're not letting that runoff get into the streams. So this water is black. All of our rivers and creeks, freshwater rivers and creeks in coastal Georgia and in lowcountry are called black water, right? And that's because every day in the South we make tea, It's, the water is relatively slow moving, it's relatively warm year round, and the tannins leach out of the plant debris and it makes tea. So that's why it's so black. And I've measured the pH on, in the Okefenoke especially, where it's really, really dark. It's about 3.7, which is very acidic, highly acidic.
Cool.
So there's not much bacteria and fungi that grow there. And then, so these would probably be the same, this little swamp right here. Some of the things that really excite me about the natural wild areas of our coast is not only the beach, but you know, we're in southeastern Georgia, and just a little further from here, just a couple of hours, is the great Okefenoke swamp, arguably the largest freshwater swamp in the world. And it is incredible. It is the home to over 10,000 alligators, American alligators. And you know, where else are you going to find that? And these are some big boys in there.
When you talk about conservation or sustainability or our planet and what it's going through, it can be overwhelming. And one of the ideas that came up was, you know, it doesn't have to be like this. The way humanity operates in the world doesn't have to be the way that we operate in the world.
I am very hopeful, and what makes me so hopeful is that I teach a biomimicry course at Savannah College of Art and Design, and the students are from all over the world, and they have to base their projects on strategies involved in nature. So strategies that a plant or an animal uses to live and to survive and thrive. So everything that is in existence today is based on those strategies, right? But what they're learning from this biomimicry class is that nature has already vetted everything. No matter what you come up with, all you have to do is to look to nature to find the answer to how this is going to work, how it should work. Then that to me is the hope. It's not tunnel vision, but a very broad vision, and looking at where can I improve this? Where can I make this a better world? And how do I do that? Well, I do that by looking to nature, because nature has already figured it out.
I love hearing that from people, is that desire to, one, better understand the humanity's relationship with nature, and two, want to and be thinking about proactively, and I think we all can do this, how do we improve our relationship with the natural world? And how do we find that harmony? If you want to access more content, consider joining our community on Patreon. You can find details in the video description. Thank you so much for watching.